Hello, hello, Josh.
Hi, how's it going?
Good man, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
That's okay. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. How is it over there? It's early morning, yeah?
Yes, it is. 7:30 a.m. here.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, nice. I'm sure it's the exactly what you want to do first thing in the morning is talking to a stranger about metal.
It, it's funny you say that because that is, to me, a great way to be able to start off the day, especially when it is great music that I thoroughly enjoy. And I
Yeah,
really love what you guys have done here with this album. I just really love the authenticity that I really hear behind it. I like the fact that you're pushing so many musical boundaries while still staying very true to yourselves. At least that's what it sounds like to me. And the fact that it's been out a month now, and I've seen a lot of great praise for this. I can't be the only one feeling that way. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
no, no, thank you, man. Thank you for the kind words. It really does mean a lot, and it's cool to see. Yeah, I guess the reaction and everyone giving it a lot of love and attention. It's really really cool to see. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, for sure. So thinking about that, I mean, how does it feel to have the album out for about a month now?
Yeah, it's nice. It's obviously been sitting there for a little while now, just like sort of brewing, and then to finally have it out and see, I guess, all the hard work that the boys had put into it as well, or all of us had, and just to see it sort of like simmer and let people do share it and see, it's been pretty positive all round. But yeah, it's nice to have it out finally. It's been a long process to get to that, so it's been cool. It's been very cool.
Oh, awesome. So thinking about that a little bit deeper, I mean, obviously with uh it being 2023 and so many great releases this year. Last year, this actually did make my top 10 of the month that I do. I mean, it's in very good company. Like when you were making this album, I mean, what was it like to start writing for the debut album?
So I only really came into the mix of the band in the last sort of 8 months. So Alex, the vocalist, had written it and done a fair bit of the pre-proing and stuff about last 3 years or so. So initially I was playing in a couple of other bands, but when I was over interstate seeing Alex and the other band I was in, that's when Alex had started showing me the stuff he'd recorded for the album. I was like, fuck, like pretty blown away by even just in the pre-production stages of what it was. So then, yeah, I guess when it finally was all like recorded and mixed and mastered, and then I got sent it and had a listen, I was like, it's really, really something, yeah, just different, something special. Like it just wasn't the run of the mill stuff, and to hear his vision really come to life with like a really slick mix and like conceptually it all really come together was yeah, really cool to hear the final product. Like fuck, like it's I think it's something quite unique. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely feel the same way, especially for a debut album. The production is one of the first things that really got to me. Is again like how slick and polished it really does feel because with the
Mm-hmm.
so many debut albums, I mean, it really does have that raw feel behind it, which is not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing. But it's just like when you hear something that where you can hear like every instrument, you can hear every note when you're listening for it, you can hear everything that's going on. It's just such a great, unique experience, and it's great to hear that.
Yeah, no, I think that's it as well. I think it's uniquely the mix. I think doesn't really sound like a lot of other things that I can think that's really coming out, and I think the style being a bit more yeah, melodic in parts. I think that really gives it some shine as well, its own character. So yeah, no, it's cool.
So thinking about that, I mean, especially with you being in for the last 8 months, like how did you get in touch with the band? Like how did this all come together with you in mind?
So me and Alex have been friends for about 10 years. So we used to play in a lot of different bands that cross paths on tours. But we've been friends for a very long time. So we, throughout the years, been at points where we were going to start projects together, and then it just kind of doesn't like line up. We also live 8 or 9 hours away from each other, so it's a fair distance. And then basically throughout it all sort of coming together, they were in a spot last year where they went through some member changes. Alex had messaged me. I was playing with a handful of other bands at the time, and he pretty much told me, like, you know, if here's the opportunity, like if you want to do it, you want to do it. And I think we'd been mates for that long that I thought it was sort of like, I thought eventually we would, you know, end up being in a band together. So that's sort of how it all came together in the end. So it kind of worked out. It's crazy when you can be in, you know, friends with people touring and stuff for 10 years. So to wind up where we are is pretty cool at this point in time. It's pretty cool.
Oh, definitely. So when you actually wanted to join into the band, like how much of a challenge was it for you to be able to play the music?
Um, it's interesting. It's different. So I think that like I'd gone through a pretty big few years of playing. I'd say faster stuff. It was a lot of like brutal death metal and a lot more faster, sort of 260 BPM and up sort of stuff. I was kind of getting a bit burnt out of just playing at those tempos. There's only so much fuel you can put into it, like, and then with the Mélancolia stuff, there was just so much more dynamic and like chilled out mellow sections, and you can sort of play around more. So I think the challenge has been more. It's not so much the speeds. It's just yeah, trying to write interesting like groovy parts that fill out like a more atmospheric section or ambient section. So I don't think I found the playing too hard. But yeah, it's always then it's just nice to have more space and atmosphere to it to yeah create more grooves and just like yeah write more tasteful drum parts, and that's just in, like instead of just straight blast beats the whole time. So yeah, yeah.
And I really appreciate that so much because the music really does call for that diversity in the sound, and you know just constantly playing blast beats and the fastest double bass. It can be very fun, but like you said, you can run out of energy and run out of steam doing that when it's the only thing that you do, and you want to be able to explore different styles. And this is definitely a band that calls for a lot of different styles incorporated, sometimes within the same song, and it's so cool to see the diversity that goes into all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think it gets to a point where you just play pummeling like stuff that's so fast the whole time that it's nice to go back and you know, I think it might be a you know, getting a bit older and just wanting to play like liking more music, I guess, across the board, like style and genre wise, but to be able to go back to sort of like, yeah, some roots of more groove stuff and have like there might be like a little jazz lick here and there, just stuff that like really makes it musically like yeah cool to play stuff that's just yeah more space to work with, which is yeah which is refreshing.
Oh, definitely. And when you do have to play like the faster double bass or blast beats, like it has more of an effect when you're not doing it all the time. So, like when it actually hits, it feels more brutal than if you're just doing it all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's it. It's like yeah, I'd played on records in the past where you know like my brain was so set to like let's just blast the whole song, just double kick and blast. Like there's no room for any other style of beats. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is, and it just becomes so mechanical and like rinse and repeat. So to have the songs like "Hiss Through Rotten Teeth," there's just so much more groove and sort of some off time stuff that allows you to just open up and experiment and have more freedom in the playing. So yeah, definitely hits harder when there's yeah the dynamics throughout the songs.
So, thinking about that, have did you have to change your setup at all when you're playing these songs, or are you keeping the same kit that you had?
I was playing like a honestly, I was playing like a much smaller kit for a while there. It was pretty much just one rack tom, one floor. Um, I did find that you know I've kind of gone back to a bit more of a traditional, I guess, sort of death metalish setup in a way. Like I've got the two racks now, two splashes, trying to keep, I guess, a bit more symmetry. Might not always be the case live, being able to have all of that sort of set up there just because of travel expenses and putting everything on, you know, like through customs and stuff. So hasn't changed too much. It's just, yeah, we've added one tom back in and a couple of splashes here and there that I wasn't really using before. But yeah, it's about the same.
And it's fun to mess around with the setup once in a while too. I mean, I know obviously when the music is very intricate, you want to make sure that you have all the pieces that you need, like all the drums, all the cymbals that you need to. But when you can mix things up a little bit, like throwing in a couple splashes or throwing in another rack tom, it can change the way that you're playing and make you come up with different ideas. And it's also the same when you take away some of those things as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely found for a long time what I liked was playing the smaller setup because I think it makes you focus on your rudimentary fills a lot more. Whereas I did grow up playing quite a big setup at home, which was my dad's. So we had so many cymbals and just like an overcrowd of like four rack toms, and it was just like a 1980s like rock kit, like it was massive. So that becomes overwhelming. So going back to a smaller kit than just focusing on those little bits and pieces more and more has been nice. And then yeah, adding stuff back in, being able to play around the kit and then like try out those new chops or rudiments has been like, yeah, definitely something, yeah, worth the practice. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that because I do the same thing, especially when I was playing in bands. I have like a full Pearl double bass kit that I use, but when I've done so many shows, like it just makes sense to play the four-piece kit because there's only so much room on stage and you have to get it off stage as quick as possible and get everything set up. But it's cool to be able to go between the two and see how, like being able to take like ideas that you have on a full kit and being able to put it into a four-piece kit and see the creativity that flows in the mind. Like, how can I replicate this in a different way?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just allows you to yeah, just to think differently about things. And yeah, sometimes overcrowding it and having too much stuff going on can be just yeah, yeah, just you're not yeah, just it's just different ways of operating, different thinking patterns. So yeah, yeah, drumming is a weird thing. Like I'll like to change it up now and then and just do something completely different. Like I've thought about at times just doing like snare, floor tom, hi hat, kick, like for playing different styles because it might just be it might just be more of a jammy fusion sort of thing, and it's just more based off like breakbeaty sort of stuff off the hi hats and snare, and be a bit more like jazzy in ways. So it's fun. It's fun being able to just like play around with it all.
Oh, for sure. So thinking about that, I mean, is there like a anything that you're like working on right now? Like any new ideas that you're trying or anything like that?
Yeah, bits and pieces. Like I think it's always just like you'll find like licks of like, I like listening to stuff and seeing people play stuff and then being able to take bits and pieces from other people's playing, put it into my own thing. So not anything I can think directly. It's just a lot of yeah, just grinding, like working on tempos, getting faster, just playing cleaner, more like, working on technique more and more and more. But there'll always be little bits and pieces that I'll hear just listening to whatever and just being like, oh, I like that idea. Like, will that fit into, this part or this and that? So, yeah, yeah, there's bits and pieces of whatever everywhere, really.
Is there any particular examples of that? Like throughout anything you've recorded or any band that you've been a part of?
I don't know, kind of like, I guess some more like linear beat stuff. Like, I find that really interesting. Just like the motion of like playing something that's, like none of the hits land on the same at the same time. So if it is like hi hat, snare, kick, yeah, and then you make a beat out of sort of that. I guess it's sort of like the like Abe Cunningham, Deftones sort of digital bath sort of thing. Like that's yeah, just stuff like that just gives it a different groove. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. And then there's just so many other like sort of fusion players and drummers that I'll listen to and be like, oh, can I fit like a break beat or like a drum and bass beat into a section that's gonna make it sound like just give it a completely different vibe, but still serve the purpose to the music. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that really shows the power of being able to listen to different styles of music. I mean, obviously, being able to listen to heavy music, it gives you the inspiration for what you need to. But when you can listen to like jazz fusion or Deftones or any other kind of style, like if you can take something from that and be able to incorporate it into your own playing and, trying it in a band you're in or just doing it for yourself, just be able to have another tool in your repertoire. That's such a great thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing you see now, like in the last, probably 8 years or so, like you're seeing more like metal drummers come through with not just like a really like beat it to death and play super super hard the whole time. Like there's a lot more crisper technique. There's these dudes that have come from playing more like maybe jazz backgrounds or fusion stuff, and then they kind of have this really flowy choppy style to it, but then still can play like super technical and fast. I guess that's like what I strive to be able to reach, is just keep trying to build that really clean, nice playing, but still be able to play like super brutal and fast, you know?
Oh, for sure. And in the long run, it'll save you money too. That way you're not constantly cracking cymbals and breaking through drum heads when you're not just pummeling it the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I know that very well. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So, again, like, a month later after the album release and seeing so much great recognition and over here in the States being through Nuclear Blast Records, I mean, that's got to be a really cool feeling as well, too. I mean, considering the amount of bands that have been a part of Nuclear Blast and still a part of Nuclear Blast, that's got to be a cool feeling.
Yeah, it's surreal, really. It's really surreal to see it. Like, even when we first, I guess, had them reach out. So even when they were first shared the songs, and just like even like tagging us on stuff on Instagram. Like I remember waking up one morning and having like a follow from Nuclear Blast on Instagram, just mind blowing. Just because you grow up listening to most of the bands on that roster, really, just such like legendary bands. So to think that we're part of that is just like a huge honor, really. Like it's surreal. It's like I'm pinching myself still about it. So it's cool.
Oh, for sure. So also thinking about that as well too. I mean, again with the album coming out, so many great things that have come over the last few months. I mean, especially since you've joined the band, the album release, Nuclear Blast, so many great things. What's going on in the future now? Like, what's going to be going ahead now?
So we just locked in our first official run, like tour in July. So we'll get that one done, and then we're just pretty much looking to lock in tours, I guess, for the rest of the year and just move forward from there. Obviously, writing, like we're into that process now of writing new stuff to be able to keep moving forward with that. So yeah, we're just writing and then trying to lock in as many tours and just push the Brett like our name out there as much as possible and go go go. So yeah, that's where we're at this point in time.
So with being a bit of ways from the rest of the band, like how is that for you when it comes to like practice? I mean, are you just like practicing along with the tracks and then you meet up like a couple days ahead of time, or how does that go about?
Yeah, pretty much. I've just found it. It's like I've spent a lot of time. I live in Adelaide, and Adelaide's a very small city in Australia, and it just reached a point where I just found myself collabing with a lot of people in other states because I just couldn't find the right members to play the music I wanted here. So pretty much ahead of time now, it's like um, I'm just practicing as much as possible up at my like rehearsal space and just jamming as much, and then we'll fly in a day or two before a show. We'll spend a couple of sessions just like bashing it all out, and then we're pretty much good to go at that point. So yeah, it wasn't too challenging, like that kind of yeah, it wasn't too challenging. I was sort of used to the cycle of the discipline of being like, oh well, like go jam by yourself for 3 hours and then repeat cycle a few days later. So it's been fine.
Well, it's cool to hear that. I mean, especially with how many bands and artists that you've been a part of when you're, especially when you're coming up with ideas on the drums or you're trying to play along with their ideas or whatever the case is. It's going to be different for every situation. But the fact that you can adapt to all these situations, like, really shows the talent that you have behind it. Because like every person has different ideas of what the drums want to do, whether it's completely your ideas, their ideas, whatever the case is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's yeah, I guess being able to adapt and play and like, like I session toured for like, on and off here and there. So like if I got hit up and people were like, oh, do you want to come do this tour with us? And you got, 5 weeks to sort of like learn those songs while you're sort of writing your own bits for other bands and this and that. And just I think having the freedom of the space to be able to go up to the rehearsal spot I've got and just like everything else is just like irrelevant when I'm up there. It's just like I'm focusing on what needs to be done here and like writing, jamming, working it all out, and then just yeah, like moving forward from that. So yeah.
Oh, very cool. So are you currently working on anything else right now outside of Melancholia?
Yeah, I've got a couple of like other projects that are sort of in the inception at the moment. They're just with recording and writing at the moment. So it's still probably like a little bit away. Probably next year, one of those projects will launch, and it's a bit more. Yeah, I don't even know how to musically. A lot more in like a weird emo hardcore sort of space. Um, and the other project that I've been working on with some friends in Adelaide is, yeah, probably a bit more of a dancey, dark wave, gothic sort of thing that's been brewing for the last few years. We've been putting some serious time and effort into that, so I'm excited for that one to be ready to go as well.
Oh, that's so cool, and again, like we've talked about, it's great to see like so many different styles that you're playing as well too. I mean, whether you're playing something fast and brutal, whether you're playing something a little more dancey, whether you're playing something more for the music, it's just like there's so many different ways to be able to approach it, and it's great to see that you can adapt to those situations.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've never believed I believe you just play and write what you want, and I'm just one of the people that I just enjoy so much different stuff. I just don't want to feel limited or pigeonholed to, it's got to be just fast and brutal the whole time. Maybe I just want to sit back and play some backbeats and do some disco sort of stuff. Like I'll go out there and yeah, like if I want to do something, I'll go out there and create it with people. So yeah, just I don't believe in the limit of stuff. You can do what you want at the end of the day, which is sick.
Yeah, definitely. You should never limit yourself. I mean, even if you don't get to play a particular style with a group of people or a writing session or a recording session, it's just fun to be able to expand what you can play. And you never know when you're going to need it for the situation. And as long as you're enjoying what you're playing, that's what matters.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. It became so second nature to be able to just put down blast beats to stuff. And I wrote a drum part for one of the songs we've been working on with this band, and I showed one of my close friends, and it was just like this laid back sort of like disco beat thing with just then a big crashy thing. And then he's just like, "That's the best thing you've ever written, and you've been doing this for that long, and it's the most simple thing you've ever wrote, but like that one part." Is the best drum beat you've ever written. I'm sitting there thinking, motherfucker, like, like spend hours working on these blast beats and different variations of whatever, and you're telling me that's the best thing. So yeah, it is funny in that regard.
Oh, for sure. And, different people have different tastes and all that stuff. But again, it's just like it's great to know that being able to go outside of what you normally knew and being able to do something more laid back and hit people a particular way. And then you never know when you're going to have to start doing some more blast beats or gravity blasts or something like that, and that's going to blow someone's mind. So it's just like
Yeah,
being able to have all of that in your arsenal. It's so cool to do that, especially with the kit that you use, the style of bands that you're a part of, and just being able to show off all those different kinds of chops when needed. It's just awesome.
yeah, yeah. No, no, absolutely, absolutely. We are yet to have, I think, a gravity blast in any Melancholia song yet. So I'm waiting to be able to sneak that one in at some point, and it just sound ultra brutal. Like it'll be quite cool.
So also with that in mind, like obviously with a touring coming up and everything and the album being out, is there like any additional ideas floating around for the next release?
Not really. Like I think it's still sort of in its infancy stage. I think yeah, Alex has been doing a lot of writing. And we've got stuff that we've been hearing and like got a lot of ideas for this and that. Yeah, not too much to reveal on it all yet. It's still just such early stages, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Well, until then, it's a very awesome piece of music that's been released from start to finish. It's the kind of album that is worth listening to from start to finish. And I love the fact that it's like it's under 40 minutes. It hits all the spots that it needs to. It hits so many different musical boundaries and lyrical concepts that are really dark but really fitting for the world that we live in right now. And just seeing everything that's a part of that. And it's going to be cool to see what you're going to be bringing into the future as well too, like when next songwriting comes and the live shows and everything that goes into that.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it'd be very exciting. It'd be very exciting to yeah, get some stuff recorded and see where the themes and the concept takes us next with everything, you know? It'll be very exciting.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, I think we covered so much great ground here, and it's been awesome to be able to talk to you about all that, like talking drums, talking metal, talking outside of metal, just like so many great things about music and showing that musical diversity is such a great thing. And of course, the brand new album from Melancholia, Hiss Through Rotten Teeth, available now through here in the States, through Nuclear Blast Records. It's been great talking about this, and I really, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about all of it.
No, thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to bring up that I hadn't brought up yet?
No, not really. Thanks to everyone who's checked it out so far, and hopefully we'll be at a city near you soon. So yeah, peace and love.